Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Baba Girivardhari Gopi Jana Baba Girivardhari Gopi Jana Baba Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnu Prabhupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Shtata Sadhusha A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Shri Shri Giriraj Maharaj Ki Shri Shri Radha Landaneshwara Ki Guntaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Gokula Premanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Grand, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Vacharine Nirvasesha Sanyavadi Tastyachade Shatarine Jai Shri Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And I'll be reading text 16, is that correct?
Yes.
Or 15? 16? Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, text number 16. Sa Vai Mahabhagavata Parikshit Jena Apavaga-akyam Abdabra Buddhihi Jnanena Vayasaki Shabditena Beje Kaga Indra Vaja Padamulam Savai Mahabhagavatak Parikshit Jena Pavagakyam Adabra Buddhihi Jnanena Vayasaki Shabditena Beje Kagendra Dvajapada Moolam Savai Mahabhagavatak Parikshit Yena Pavagakyam Adabra Buddhi Jnanena Vayasaki Shabditena Beje Kagendra Dvajapada Moolam Savai Mahabhagavatak Parikshit Yena Pavagakyam Adabra Buddhihi Jnanena Vayasaki Shabditena Beje Kakendra Dvajapada Moolam Savai Mahabhagavata Parikshit Jena Pavagakyam Adabra Buddhi
Jnanena Vayasaki Shabditena Beje Kadendra Dvajapada Moolam Savai Mahabhagavata Parikshit
Savai Mahabhagavata Parikshit Jena Pavagakyam Adabra Buddhi Jnanena Vayasaki Shabditena Beje Kakendra Dvajapada Moolam
Savai Mahabhagavata
Savai Mahabhagavata Parikshit Yena Pavagakyam Adabra Buddhi Yena Vayasaki Shabditena Peje Kakendra Dvajapada Moolam. Ladies, like Savai Mahabhagavata Parikshit Yena Pavagakyam Adabra Buddhi Jnanena Vayasati Shabditena Peje Gagendra Dvajapada Moolam. Saha, he, vai, certainly, Mahabhagavataha, first class devotee. Parikshit, the king. Jena, by which. Apavaga Akyam, by the name of liberation. Adabra, fixed. Buddhi, intelligence. Jnanena, by knowledge. Vyasaki, the son of Vyas. Shabditena, vibrated by. Beje, taken to. Kaga Indra, Garuda, the king of the birds. Dvaja, flag. Padamulam, soles of the feet. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. O Sutta Goswami, please describe those topics of the Lord by which Maharaj Parikshit, whose knowledge was fixed on liberation, attained the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of Garuda, the king of birds. Those topics were vibrated by the son of Vyas, Srila Shukadeva. Purport. There is some controversy amongst the students on the path of liberation. Such transcendental students are known as impersonalists and devotees of the Lord. The devotee of the Lord worships the transcendental form of the Lord, whereas the impersonalist meditates upon the glaring effulgence or the bodily rays of the Lord, known as the Brahmajyoti. Here in this verse it is said that Maharaj Parikshit attained the lotus feet of the Lord by instructions in knowledge delivered by the son of Vyasadeva, Srila Shukadeva Goswami. Shukadeva Goswami was also an impersonalist in the beginning, as he himself has admitted in the Bhagavatam. But later on he was attracted by the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, and thus became a devotee. Such devotees with perfect knowledge are called Mahabhagavats, or first-class devotees. There are three classes of devotees, namely the Prakrita, Madhyam and Mahabhagavat. The Prakrita, or third-class devotees, are temple worshippers without specific knowledge of the Lord and the Lord's devotees. The Madhyam, or the second-class devotees, knows well the Lord. The Lord's devotees, the neophytes, and the non-devotees also. But the Mahabhagavat, or the first-class devotee, sees everything in relation with the Lord, and the Lord present in everyone's relation. The Mahabhagavat, therefore, does not make any distinction, particularly between a devotee and a non-devotee. Maharaj Parikshit was such a Mahabhagavat devotee because he was initiated by a Mahabhagavat devotee, Shukadeva Goswami. He was equally kind, even to the personality of Kali, and what to speak of others. So there are many instances in the transcendental histories of the world of an impersonalist who has later become a devotee. But a devotee has never become an impersonalist. This very fact proves that on the transcendental steps, the step occupied by a devotee is higher than the step occupied by an impersonalist. It is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita 12.5 that persons stuck on the impersonal step undergo more sufferings than achievement of reality. Therefore, knowledge imparted by Shukadeva Goswami unto Maharaj Parikshit helped him attain the service of the Lord. And this stage of perfection is called Apavarga, the perfect stage of liberation. Simple knowledge of liberation is material knowledge. Actual freedom from material bondage is called liberation, but attainment of the transcendental service of the Lord is called the perfect stage of liberation. Such a stage is attained by knowledge and renunciation, as we have already explained, and perfect knowledge, as delivered by Srila Shukadeva Goswami, results in the attainment of the transcendental service of the Lord. End of purport. I'll read the verse once more. O Sutta Goswami, please describe those topics of the Lord by which Maharaj Parikshit, whose intelligence was fixed on liberation, attained the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of Garuda, the king of birds. Those topics were vibrated by the son of Vyas, Srila Shukadeva. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please be very kind, give us some good wishes, whatever. Blessings is in some ways a high term. I remember one time Burijan Prabhu asked one great Vaishnava to please give him blessings. And the Vaishnava said, my dear Prabhu, I am not qualified to bless you. I will pray to my spiritual master and to your devotees that they may bless you. So, whatever. We'll try to at least remember, focus our consciousness on the words herein of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have the last 2 days we've had the good fortune of the association of Swayam Bhagavan Keshri Maharaj, absorbing you all of us, everyone who's hearing of it, in our constitutional position of connecting us to Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam is the means to connect us with Krishna. So to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam is the method, the process of counteracting yada najasana yukta karma grunted bandhanam. In today's verse there are many points made. Amongst them, I think the one that I catch there towards the end. Who can think of a point in this verse towards the end of the purport? Don't put it on the board, it gives the game away. In the last paragraph anyway, which was Prabhupada emphasized in the last paragraph of his purport. The word is mentioned in the verse also, in the second line of the verse. What was one of the essential features, you could say, of this verse and purport? You may mention something else. Mention something, an essential point of this verse and purport. Yes.
It's mentioned that impersonalists turn to be devotees of the Lord, but devotees never turn into impersonalists.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and which we may wonder sometimes. It wasn't the point which I was mentioning. It's not the point in the right at the end. It's in the last paragraph, no doubt, but it's not right at the end. How an impersonalist become a devotee? Well, the easy logic or understanding, which is given here also, that the pleasure of devotional service exceeds that of Brahman realization. It's a higher taste. It's more attractive. We will mention that probably in a minute. I don't know. Let's see. And but then we see that many times devotees, what we call devotees, turn sometimes, maybe not completely of course, but turn away from Krishna consciousness, one way or another, some form of impersonalism, you could say, materialism, or some mixed form of religiosity or whatever. This is referring particularly to those who've realized, who've come to the two paths are mentioned in this purport here. The path of devotion, the path of impersonalism. Personalism. So it's particularly referring to those who've realized the path. Practitioners may become sometimes bewildered, overwhelmed by various anarthas or whatever. But those who've actually come to this realization, once having realized the personal form of the Lord, they would never turn to the impersonal. Those who turn to the impersonal path, they may, with good fortune means association of devotees, with good fortune their attraction may awaken. It may awaken. We can see earlier in this chapter, for instance, I think it's in the 7th chapter of this volume. Maybe here it is, right here. Famous verse, and Keshava Maharaj did refer to it briefly the other day. Atmaramas chamunayo negrantha apyarukrame kurvancha hoiti king bhaktim itam bhutapano hiri. All different varieties of Atmaramas, those who take pleasure in Atma, or spirit self. I mean, those who are actually on that platform of at least realizing the nature of the self, especially those established on the path of self-realization, they're established. Though freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. This means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities and therefore can attract everyone, including liberated souls. It's the meaning of Krishna, he's all attractive. Even those, of course, it's our choice. It's our choice, as we're also hearing, of course, sometimes. Even though we're faced with something very attractive, we may not be attracted. Whatever conditional reason it may be. But Krishna is all attractive, he's the most attractive. And those who are fortunate to get the association, generally speaking, those who are blinded by material attachment to Krishna Padatoksvatova Tobi Padyeta Grahavitam, they do not have any attraction towards that topic of the personality of Godhead. Their consciousness is shrouded or clouded with material desire. In the case of the impersonalists, with the glaring effulgence of the Brahman, they're blinded by that. So they cannot appreciate the transcendental topics of the personality of Godhead. But by the grace of a pure devotee of the Lord, just like we have heard, how Shukadeva Goswami, Prabhupada was mentioning also in the purport, how he himself describes himself as an impersonalist. This is the second canto in the beginning. How Shukadeva Goswami describes, he was also an impersonalist. Now there are different types of impersonalists. There's the Brahmavadis and the Mayavadis. Sometimes they're grouped into one, but they have a different attitude, a different nature in one sense. Just like we're hearing here, different devotees are there. In the spiritual realm, there are different natured devotees. The center point of all the devotees is Krishna, pleasing Krishna. Whereas in the impersonalist, yes, the center or the objective of both is the impersonal Brahman. But the Mayavadis, in simple terms, the Mayavadis are enemies of the Lord. They deny, point blankly, the personality of Godhead, the form, and they're basically inimical towards that. Whereas the Brahmavadi impersonalist, they realize the Brahman, they realize their spiritual nature as Brahman. They are not envious of the personality. They may not be aware of the personality of God, or they've not had the good fortune to associate with a Mahabhagavat, with somebody who is a pure devotee of the Lord, completely pure. So Shukadeva Goswami, now this also, I was thinking as we read the purport, but that's interesting, because we hear that as soon as Shukadeva Goswami was born, he immediately went, as a young child, he wandered through various countries or areas and came to the place where Maharaj Parikshit was about to fast to death, 7 days of life remaining. And he went there because he had a specific reason and purpose to satisfy or to give Maharaj Parikshit the answers of life's purpose, how to get out of what's called pavarga. The word in this verse today, which I was going to mention, was apavarga. Apavarga means the cessation of birth and death. In simple terms, liberation. Whereas pavarga is the bondage, that which binds us in the material world. So he went there to deliver. What Parikshit Maharaj has mentioned here is already a Mahabhagavat. This is all for the benefit of others, but this conversation, this history, if you want to call it that, is manifesting herein for everyone's benefit. Of course, Parikshit Maharaj is relishing every moment of it, as is everyone else. All the sages are assembled there. So, if Sukadeva Goswami was an impersonalist, at what stage did he become a personalist? Was it in a previous lifetime? Or was it whilst he was walking through the forest that suddenly he became a personalist? Or what stage? Does anyone know? don't forget the transformation from Brahmavadi. Mayavadi is maybe a little bit more difficult. They're a little harder to crack. But the like a nut, some nuts are very hard to crack and take a lot of pressure. Brahmavadis, they've just not been exposed. And when they are exposed, the transcendental sound vibration of Krishna Katha from the pure devotees, Nivrittatarshi Bhagima, those who are freed of all material coverings of any kind. When they hear from them the beautiful topics of Krishna, Kuttama Shloka, Gunanavada, and they become attracted, their hearts become attracted. So how did this transformation take place? It's understood that Shukadeva Goswami was Brahman realized. Every devotee should be Brahman realized. Real devotional service starts at Brahma Bhuta Prasadat Manasochatina Kamshati. It starts from the Brahman platform. Real devotional service, when we realize our spiritual identity, when we realize our spiritual identity and take to devotional service, then one never turns back. So where did that happen in the life of Sukadeva Goswami? Who would like to give an answer?
When you heard Srimad Bhagavatam from the disciples of Vyasadeva?
Did he hear from the disciples of Vyasadeva? Or did he hear from Vyasadeva? What does it say in the Bhagavatam? Did he hear from them? Maybe he did, I may be wrong, but from my weak understanding and memory, he has, in the womb, when he heard the Srimad Bhagavatam, as you may know, a similar related incident described in the 5th chapter or something like that of this canto, how Narada Muni chastised Srila Vyasadeva for not sufficiently glorifying the personality of Godhead. He mentioned him, but not sufficiently. Just one amongst many. He'd mentioned Apavarga, but for most people Apavarga means Brahman realization, liberation from the material world. So he emphasized to him, he said, you must emphasize the personality of the Supreme, of the Absolute, not just the Brahman form, Brahmajyoti. Not even the localized form, but the original Bhagavan form of the Lord. So then, of course, Vyasadeva, in his meditation, he visualized that form of the Lord. And with the empowerment of Narada Muni, he compiled, wasn't put in written form, but he then spoke or narrated the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the womb, was the wife of Vyasa, in the womb, Shukadeva heard that pastime and he became absolutely attracted in the association by hearing from the purest source. And this is the transformation, this is the secret, to hear the Bhagavatam from the right source. And that delivers one from Pavarga and brings us to Apavarga, liberation, but not just ordinary liberation, as Prabhupada says in this purport. The highest form of liberation, the purest, the topmost form of liberation, pure devotional service of the Lord by the association, hearing in the association of the pure devotee of the Lord. If our ears are open, those who are envious, those who are absorbed in the material world, Matirna Krishna Paratokshvatova, are not interested in this. Even if they try their mind, they're too much attached, or we're too much attached. We may also be somewhat in these categories. Otherwise we wouldn't still have any influence, any interest in trying to enjoy separate. We'd have no separatist mentality of any kind. And this is the process. This is the process of This is why Sutta Goswami is being asked by the sages of Naimisharanya to speak this subject matter, to clarify what is the topmost liberation, what is the topmost goal of human life. And Sutta goes right at the beginning of the canto, of course. The sages asked this question. They're just reiterating it again, basically. Kindly tell us, speak to us about the wonderful pastimes of the personality of Godhead, his numerous incarnations and his various pastimes and so on and so forth. They're asking this right at the beginning. This is a remedial measure to counteract the ill effects of this Kali Yuga. In the second chapter, Sutta Goswami explains, Yadani Jasnaya Dukkama Gwantina Bandhanam Chindanti Kovadastasya Komakula Katavatam. And then intelligent persons cut the knot, they cut this pavarga, they cut that knot, karma granta, of material bondage by remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to these messages? Tasmate kena manasa bhagavan sapatam bhati shrotatavipitatalvyascha devapujaschintita. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, remember, worship the personality of Godhead. This is in the association of devotees, this attraction. If someone can bring the third canto, part 2 probably of the Bhagavatam, we'll read something very nice. And we don't have time to read much on this topic, but in relationship to Apavarga, which is in one sense the objective. It says here that this is the objective of Parikshit Maharaj, is Apavarga. Maybe we can put that somewhere. I might need it again, I don't know. But 1, 2, yeah. Who knows this verse? 25, 25, isn't it? Satam pasangam mamavirya samvido bhavanti vitkana vasayana kataha. I think that's 25th chapter. Yes, here it is, text 25. 3:25, 25. Kapila Dev. The word apavarga, of liberation. And this is again the same principle of how to attain this. It comes up again and again and again in the Srimad Bhagavatam. What is real apavarga, or real liberation, and how to attain that. That is the goal of life. It's not the goal of life is to attain pure, unalloyed, devotional service to Krishna, to awaken that. So in this verse, the word Tajoshanat Ashvabhavarga Vartmani, very important. It says cultivation. What Kapila Dev says. Cultivation. What do we cultivate? We cultivate the process. By cultivating such knowledge. And what is that knowledge? That knowledge, as we just heard, which transformed Shukadeva Goswami to a person as he heard it. From his father, maybe from others, but he heard it from his father attentively. And if our hearts are dirty, as we hear earlier in this canto, how Prabhupada says that, well, first of all, Sutta Goswami says, 3rd chapter, that we have to hear this Bhagavatam with rapt attention. Just if I have heard it, I will now explain this to you. Sages in Naimisharanya, you please hear this with rapt attention, because by hearing it with rapt attention, you will see Krishna on the pages of the Bhagavatam. And Srila Prabhupada explains the importance of hearing from the right person in the purport. We don't hear from professionals or from Mayavadis, persons who are materially motivated. One has to hear from those who are pure in heart. If we want to actually have that transformation of our consciousness, the sound vibration is saturated with love and devotion. It's come from the lotus feet of the Lord. It carries the saffron dust of the Lord, which thus purifies our heart, captivates our heart, purifies the heart. So how can we hear with rapt attention? Prabhupada says to hear with rapt attention. One has to be pure in heart. To be pure in heart, one has to be pure in one's eating, sleeping, mating, defending. We have to be pure in our various activities of our lives. In other words, we're molding our lives to facilitate the purification of our consciousness. Thus, the Lord Chaitanya has given us this merciful process of Sankirtan. But our hearts in devotional service have to become purified. The heart refers to our consciousness, or a means of perception, has to be purified. Then we can perceive this subject matter. Then whatever tendencies of separatism, be they manifest in the form of sense gratification, be they manifest in the form of desire for liberation or mystic powers, be they manifest in the desires to go to heaven or to have a respect, name and fame, whatever it may be, if we hear this subject matter from the right source with an attentive heart, can be dissipated, just as the sun dissipates the fog on the rising. When it rises, the fog is dissipated. So this needs to be cultivated. The cultivation, knowledge, we have to have the right knowledge from the right source to evoke this change of heart. We're going to just read the verse, and we have time to go into the actual subject matter. I wanted to read something briefly before we close shop. By cultivating such knowledge, what is that? In the association, Kapila says, in the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. It isn't pleasing if our mind is in another world. It's boring, or we're just totally not even there. We're not even there at all. We say, what did I just say? And we'd have no idea what I just said. None whatsoever. Complete blank. That happens regularly. Our mind is in a mobile phone, checking our text messages or thinking about something we want to do today, or meditating on some sense object or something. We're completely blank to what's being said. We're about as good as a cockroach. Cockroaches may also crawl across the floor in many temples, may hopefully not hear. But what do they hear? Next to nothing. And then same thing, that's why it's said that we're like Saiva Gokara, we're like animals who have the opportunity but don't take it. We're interested in something else, some kind of separatist object. So to hear that with rapt attention, one has to be clean in heart. The pastimes, to hear that, is pleasing to the ear and the heart. This has to be cultivated. By cultivating such knowledge, this knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, apavarga, and thereafter he is freed and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begins. Real devotion which is irrevocable. It cannot be reversed. It becomes as we hear in the second chapter also. Irrevocable devotional service is established in the heart when these coverings are removed by Nashta Prayeshu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya. By rendering service and regularly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Both must be there. At our stage particularly. To cleanse our heart, engage us in pure activities, and prevent us from watering the weeds, and at the same time hearing the message of Godhead. They should go on simultaneously, from the right source, of course. And this way our hearts can change. It would be lovely to read this purport. It is a fabulous purport, and you can read it later in the day. We don't have time to read everything here. It follows in line. You see this recurring emphasis throughout the whole Srimad Bhagavatam on these various points is there, almost in every canto. You find that this emphasis is placed on the importance of hearing in the right way from the right person, the right subject. So I'd like to read something from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is in the 6th chapter of the Madhya Lila, if you could bring the 6th chapter of the Madhya Lila. This is chapter, who knows what this chapter deals with? Madhya Lila. How many of you have read the Chaitanya Charitamrita? Please hands up. All of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7, maybe 8 devotees. Wonderful. Of course, it's not something you may read immediately, but you may also. Prabhupada was lecturing on this in 1966. I don't know where to start. Let me see if we can find somewhere short and sweet. Here, we start here. If you want to put it on the board, you may. It's text 260 of the 6th chapter. And this chapter is dealing with the transformation of another similar situation to what we're hearing today. With Sukadeva Goswami, transformation. The similar thing is happening. Parikshit Maharaj, of course, is already a Mahabhagavat, but there are thousands of sages gathered there, and they're not all devotees. They're all spiritualists. But here in the Bhagavatam, in the association of Sukadeva Goswami, who was transformed, all of them became transformed. The same in the forest of Naimishranya. Sutta Goswami heard from Sukadeva, and then he went there and passed on the same message. This is how it works. You become transformed, and then you can transform others. But until one comes to that pure platform, the capacity to transform is perhaps a little shallow. It may create some interest, but it's a little shallow. We pass on the books which are complete and full in themselves. This is the he was a monist, behaving like a monist, but a very dedicated one, very well respected. He was the leader practically of the Brahmins in Puri, king's personal pandit. A few pandits, he was the leading one. And when Lord Chaitanya came there, his mission was particularly, initially, he only stayed in Puri for a few months, more or less to convert Sarvabhauma. That was his sole role, practically. And at first Sarvabhauma could see this personality, this young sannyasi. He looked like he's Narayan himself. He's so fortunate. So fortunate. He looks like he's realized as a man. He's such a young man. Very dangerous when you're a young man. Young man, you have to hear Vedanta. You're a sannyasi now. You've taken sannyas from the Bharati Sampradaya. This is very good. But you must hear Vedanta. And Sarvabhauma was expert in Vedanta, knowledge of Vedas and so on, different conclusions, and particularly the monist conclusion. He knew it all. He was a very advanced magician and scholar and so on and so forth. So he was very keen to teach him. Lord Chaitanya said, okay, oh yes, you're right, I'm very fortunate to hear from you. Please help me. So Sarvabhauma very happily began to speak this Vedanta philosophy to Lord Chaitanya. And for 7 days he spoke non-stop practically. Lord Chaitanya sat there motionless and didn't say a word. After 7 days, Sarvabhauma was a little bit perplexed. He said, what's wrong? I mean, I've been speaking and speaking. You never ask a single question. I mean, are you hearing anything? Do you understand anything at all what I'm trying to explain to you? Are you so dumb? Lord Chaitanya said, well, I did hear what you said, but I didn't understand anything. And he said, well, I can understand. Maybe you don't understand, so please ask what is it you don't understand. Your explanations have simply covered the truth. They're simply bewildering. They're simply covering the whole goal, the Vedanta, the objective goal of Vedanta. You've covered it completely. You've misinterpreted the Vedas entirely. So Sarvabhauma was taken aback. Who's this young sannyasi charge? So then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then, of course, is only briefly mentioned here. He goes into great depth in this conversation with Sanatana Goswami on this, if you want to read more. But here in this chapter, he only briefly mentions his, let's say, explanation, Lord Chaitanya's explanation of the self-manifested or self-evident statements of the Vedas, and explained this to Sarvabhauma in so many different ways. They explained it, and then he talked about the Atmarama verse, which we just read just now, Atmarama's Chirmanayo and so on. He then spoke that verse, and Lord Chaitanya said to Sarvabhauma, so can you please explain this to me? Sarvabhauma explained it in so many ways, and then Sarvabhauma said, do you have anything to say on that, the explanation? And then Lord Chaitanya explained, very nice what you said, but you still, and he explained it from a scholastic point of view. You haven't realized the text. And then Lord Chaitanya explained it from this way, that way, this way, that way, unlimited explanations on the meanings of each and every word, connecting everything to Apavarga and what real Apavarga means. Relationship with the personality of Godhead. And Sarvabhauma was just dumbfounded. He'd never heard such explanation ever in his whole life from anyone. Even the topmost scholars, great Mayavadi sannyasis, he'd never heard anything like this before. He was overwhelmed and surrendered to Lord Chaitanya. So much so that we'll just read what happened then. This is towards the end of this chapter, text 260. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was always chanting the holy name of the Lord. And one day Lord Chaitanya came to see, this day Sarvabhauma came to see Lord Chaitanya this time. And Sarvabhauma began to quote one very famous verse for all devotees in our Krishna consciousness movement. The verse we're going to hear in a minute, which was quoted here by Sarvabhauma. He began to quote one of Lord Brahma's prayers from Srimad Bhagavatam, but he changed 2 syllables at the end of the verse. And this is the verse, and perhaps you have it on the board. Is it up on the screen?
Yes.
Text 261. This is in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 14th chapter. Text number 8, I believe, of the 14th chapter. And Prabhupada said the guideline for all devotees in our Krishna conscious movement. Tate nukampam susamikshamanam punjanahi vatmakritam vipakam vidvagapubun vidadanamaste jiveteyo bhakti pade sadai. Oh, back. A mistake. Printing mistake, it must be. It's not bhakti pade, it's mukti pade. What is this? Our editors, the BBT editors, must have made a mistake here. This is wrong. If you know the verse, that's not the verse, is it? This is a different verse. Ooh, we can't do that. We can't change the words of the Bhagavatam. Mukti Bade. What is this? Bhakti. Is it Vindai, what's that, what do we say? Krishna Bhakti or Vishnu Bhakti? Which one is it?
Krishna Bhakti.
It's Vishnu Bhakti. The verse is Vishnu Bhakti. The Vedic verse, Vishnu Bhakti. How dare you make it Krishna Bhakti? What do you think you are? That's all right, you can say Krishna Bhakti. Perhaps if you do one. The Bhattacharya recited rather. One who seeks your compassion, this is the verse, translation. One who seeks your compassion and thus tolerates all kinds of adverse conditions due to the karma of his past deeds, who engages always in your devotional service with his mind, words and body, and who always offers obeisances unto you, is certainly a bona fide candidate for becoming your unalloyed devotee. Bhakti Padaya, devotional service. But the verse says differently. It's meant to be there. What are you doing? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu really pointed out, in that verse the word is Mukti Padaya. You change it to Bhakti Padaya. What is your intention? Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, the awakening of pure love of God, which is the result of devotional service, far surpasses liberation from material bondage. For those averse to devotional service, merging into the Brahmana effulgence is a kind of punishment. See what a transformation. The Bhattacharya continued, the impersonalists who do not accept the transcendental form of Lord Sri Krishna, and the demons who are always engaged in blaspheming and fighting with him, are punished by being merged into the Brahmana effulgence, like being dumped into the ocean. But that does not happen to the person engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. There are 5 kinds of liberation: Salokya, Samipya, Sarupya, Sarashti, and Sayogya. If there is a chance to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a pure devotee sometimes accepts the Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya, and Sarashti forms of liberation, but never Sayogya. A pure devotee does not even like to hear about Sayogya Mukti, which inspires him with fear and hatred. Indeed, the pure devotee would rather go to hell than merge into the effulgence of the Lord. Sarvabhauma continued, there are 2 kinds of Sayogya Mukti, merging into the Brahmana effulgence and merging into the personal form of the Lord. Merging into the Lord's body is even more abominable than merging into his effulgence. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya concluded, Even though he is offered all kinds of liberation, the pure devotee does not accept them. He is fully satisfied, engaging in the service of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya replied, the word mukti pade has another meaning. Mukti pade directly refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All kinds of liberation exist under the feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore he is known as Muktipada. Muktipada. According to another meaning, Mukti is the ninth subject, ninth canto of Bhagavatam. And the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the shelter of liberation. It leads to the 10th canto. Sarvabhauma. Since I can understand Krishna according to these two meanings, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, what point is there in changing the verse? Sarvabhauma replied, I was not able to give that reading to the verse. Although your explanation is correct, it should not be used because there is ambiguity in the word muktipada. The word mukti refers to 5 kinds of liberation, but its direct meaning usually conveys the idea of becoming one with the Lord. The very sound of the word mukti immediately induces hate and fear, but when we say the word bhakti, we naturally feel transcendental bliss within the mind. Upon hearing this explanation, the Lord began to laugh, and with great pleasure immediately embraced Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya very firmly. Indeed, that very person who had been accustomed to reading and teaching Mayavad philosophy was now even hating the word mukti. This was possible only by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As long as it does not turn iron into gold by its touch, no one can recognize an unknown stone to be a touchstone. Upon seeing transcendental Vaishnavism in Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, everyone could understand that Lord Chaitanya was none other than Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj. After this incident, all the inhabitants of Jagannath Puri, headed by Kashi Mishra, came to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Later I shall describe how Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya always engaged in the service of the Lord. I shall also describe in full detail how Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya perfectly rendered service to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by offering him alms. If one hears with faith and love these pastimes concerning Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's meeting with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he very soon is freed from a net of speculation and fruitive activity and attains the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Antaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. What are we going to do now? What should we do?
Questions and answers.
We should. You ask questions from the right person. The person was correct. Whether we're the right person to even endeavor to answer, we're just reading and repeating things here. That's the only hope. We have no realization of these transcendental topics. But maybe someone can help when needs be to elucidate or reveal at least the path towards the truth. It's a cultivation. Have we heard? It's a cultivation. Any questions or comments? Hare Krishna. Is there a mic? That's not the question. I can answer this one here. You can have the mic.
It's a prerequisite question.
Is there a mic? Now you're going to give the right comment. I'm going to surrender at the Lotus feet.
If this was a drama, perhaps we could do that.
But yeah, it's a good drama.
Yeah. Maybe we could start the next drama like that.
Yeah, very good one.
So, given these beautiful verses, and of course many of the pastimes of the Bhagavatam, it seems that the highest form of devotion is simply wanting to serve the Lord, whether in this world or in the spiritual world. But
I just read that this London is the spiritual world.
that is true.
It's written up here on the board. Is that right? By the mercy. Rather Londonishwar. It's so beautiful by their mercy. That London has become Vrindavan. Carry on.
Should we be motivated to have this life as the last one?
This class is the last one.
No.
My last one. You're right.
Say that we have many, many more. But should we aim that our life should be the last one, we should be in that mood that we should liberate ourselves, or should we be okay with the fact that we can come back and continue to serve?
Should we? Oh yeah, this is a very hearty question which many devotees share and ask sometimes or say. And I've heard wonderful, wonderful devotees say this actually. One of the most ecstatic, blissful preachers ever in our whole room, for sure. That he doesn't feel like he wants to go back to God, that he wants to stay here and continue preaching in Lord Chaitanya's movement in this world. That was his statement. He just wants to stay here and serve in this world. Now, from a childlike perspective, it appears that there's a difference between the two. From a conditional perspective, there's definitely seems to be a difference. It is Goloka Vrindavan is like, Hawaii over there, and Bali over there, and Miami, and London, and whatever else in heaven on this planet. A geographical location. In one sense, you could describe it in various measurable geographical ways for the sake of Leela, but there is no limits. The material world is simply covered Vaikuntha. Covered. When the coverings are gone, this is Vaikuntha, this is Vrindavan. So a devotee whose heart is actually pure, out of sentiment we say these things. And it's not a bad sentiment, by the way, but Prabhupada said that our purpose is to go back to Godhead. The purpose of this movement is to go back to Godhead. Ultimately, the purpose is to exist for the pleasure of Krishna. That's what it means. So to go back to Godhead, do you think that a devotee, a pure devotee preaching this world is like not in the spiritual world? He is, completely. And it is actually directly explained that a pure devotee can be in both pastimes simultaneously. Gaur Lila and Krishna Lila. So here, just like Krishna Lila in this Gokul material world, in many ways it's the same as Goloka, but it has extra sweetness, extra taste. And again, this time factor becomes a very relative consideration in a sense, because we tend to put time on things. But there's no time frame. It's impossible for our limited level of realization to grasp it. We can just accept that these things are possible. That they can simultaneously you're back to Godhead in that sense, and you're in this world preaching. And you're also in Lord Chaitanya's Shvetadvita pastimes, and you're also in Krishna's pastimes. It's a little difficult. We become schizophrenic or something like that. It's not like that at all. But right now it may appear like, well, am I one? Am I there? How can I be both? Come on, tell us the truth. Is it one or the other? I'm going to stay here. You can go where you like. You know, when someone said to devotees, when you get up there, please say a prayer for me. That's also nice. When that means to say, when you know, if you say a prayer at any stage is always good. There's no harm. When you become a pure devotee, going back to God, it means you are pure. That means becoming a pure devotee. That's what it means. Not the geographical. Everything becomes revealed when the heart becomes completely pure. The heart becomes Nityasiddha Krishna Satikapanaishwara. And that pure, that love of God, the potentiality for love of God is in the heart of every single living being. Is awoken by Shravan Adi here in chanting or cultivating. Adi also means following in the footsteps and the other Siddhashvina, Anukulina Krishnanu Shilam, in the footsteps of the devotees, we cultivate Shilam, devotional service. And in that cultivation, it's like as the sun rises, everything becomes clarified. Everything. But we do see, and it is mentioned in the Bible today, that three types of adhikara, three types of devotees, Kanistas, and this materialistic platform tends to measure everything, and you know, time and space and everything, always kind of trying to kind of like contain things within their imperfect senses and capacity. The Madhyamadi is when it's surrendered to the ultimate. He's surrendered, following the ultimate. And he's cultivating pure devotional service under the ultimate Bhagavan. And he's at least acting on the platform of the Madhya in an intermediate where he's fixed in his service, although not maybe fixed in Siddhanta, but fixed in service. And his faith is strong. And he does discriminate for the sake of preaching. He is the topmost of it, doesn't discriminate, as it's mentioned in the verse. He sees demons and devotees as all the same. He sees it all spiritual. He sees everyone as Brahman. He sees everything as Krishna energy. It's not like the material spiritual for Uttama Bhagavad. It's all one in a different way. Not just it's all one Brahman, but everything is Krishna's and everything relating to Krishna. He sees everything like that. But for the sake of preaching to those who are either Kanista Adhikaras or materialistic, thoroughly materialistic, he may play the role of an apparent preacher in this world where, you know, discrimination appears to come a little bit between the innocent, the envious, the devotees, and the supreme. He plays that role, but he's not on that platform. We have to come. The goal is to come to that platform. Everything else will be revealed. If one continues to play the role of Madhyamadi carry over on the platform of the ultimate, so be it. That's for the sake of preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya. Be already back to God. It's just a matter of, you know, variety. Internally, both are going on. I've mentioned this quite a few times. These eternal associates, or those who become in our association of the pure devotees, have become also the practicing devotional service under their direction, come to that platform of purity also, following their mood. They also have this internal, external, so to speak, devotion. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Oh, Maya's here. I couldn't see you properly. I have my glasses down a little. I could see the beard.
I just wanted to ask on the back of what you said there, can a Kanishta Adhikari get a glimpse or a taste of the vision of what the Uttama sees?
Can a Kanista Adhikari get the vision of what an Uttama sees?
As in not discriminating.
Oh, and not discriminating. Not in the same way. You may have the sentiment of that. We don't have the realization of that. And you'll find what happens is, we accept that that's, you could say, the level, and we hear about it, and we we adore it, we glorify it. And we don't act, when we try to act on that platform, and we don't get what we think is right and wrong, and you see the differences there. We are still subjected to, being affected by the laws of nature. We're still attracted to the objects of the senses. We still want recognition. We still want, we still see these things there. So we may hear about it, we should hear about it, but we can't imitate it. We follow. The pure devotee will only give us a vision of what's required to come to realization. We hear about, of course, their vision also, but they will give us the vision to understand what is needed to come to that point of realization, which we don't even have the vision. We still think, I don't believe this, why should I surrender? No, I know what I'm doing, and who's this guy to tell me what to do, And, I don't believe what it says in here, what's all this stuff, we should change what it says here. On and on and on the mind goes, Our tendency to speculate, which we just heard about, free from this tendency to speculate, and so on. Tendencies there. And we talk nicely about it, people may think, you see, we try to put on a show. There's a reflection of that in the material world where people try to, play that role of being kind to everyone, but it's an impossible role. Isn't for any conditioned soul. For a canista adhikari, it's impossible to act like that. The way we act or cultivate that is we serve under the direction of a madhyam who's under the direction of a uttama. A canista serves under a madhyam. Even if the madhya is an uttama playing the part of a madhyam, that's first class. That's what we had with Srila Prabhupada, with Goswamis, etc. They're uttamas. But they're giving us canistas. We're not even canistas, they're trying to raise us, at least the canistas. What we are, we're just gross materialists, or whatever. But they're trying to raise us up to the madhyam platform by their association, following their guidelines. They're giving it, they see where we're at. It's like if you have kids, you see what the level of it as a child, maturity of the child, and you try to guide him up to the next level of maturity. The child cannot possibly see it the way we see it, but the child accepts the path, if it's hopefully the right path, to help the child to open their eyes and see the next level of realization. But you can have a glimpse in the sense of seeing the pure devotee of the Lord by seeing them and how they respond to circumstances, how they relate, how they live, how they perform, etc., etc. But we cannot imitate. Internally we cannot see. But we can see in the sense that they're a role model, whatever you want to call it, that we aspire towards. Every child has a role model. Some sports hero or whatever. Boys especially, it's a sports hero, some musician or something like that. You can't obviously feel what they're feeling, but you want, you want to be like that, and their presence attracts you. You want to be like them. So to that extent, of course, we're not even seeing what they're really like either. We're only getting a glimpse of it, according to our ability to receive it. And as we become purified, then it becomes clearer. More is revealed. As we surrender to me, I reveal myself accordingly. Krishna says. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi.